everyone, it's Crystal with Crystal's Creations. Welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to take a moment and put out my DIY video for you guys. I made two different versions of a gumball machine terrarium for the fake succulent and cactus plants that you can find at the Dollar Tree, and also a margarita glass terrarium or planter, and everything was found at the Dollar Tree. So let's get started. Okay, first off, you'll need a large drain stopper from the Dollar Tree, one of these small glass fish bowls, and the larger of the terracotta planters, which come in a pack of 2, a bag of rocks or vase filler of your choice. You can also choose which succulents you want to use or which cacti you choose to use, or a mixture of both. You can also opt for some gnomes or other fairy garden statues, and you will also need some spray paint colors of your choice. I use the Rust-Oleum hammered look. You will also want to get a pack of this jute twine, as we are going for a farmhouse look with this project, and you will also need glue gun, glue sticks, and scissors. Okay, so first you want to grab the terracotta pot and the drain stopper and take them outside and throw on a couple of coats of paint. Make sure you get a good full coverage. If you are using the hammered paint, you do want to do it in light layers and then go back for a second coat. It is kind of like a thick spray paint. I ended up doing mine kind of when it was getting dark, so sorry if the lighting is bad, but we're just going to get those all spray painted and let them dry, and then we will move on to some other stuff while those are drying. Okay, as you can see, these are done drying and they have a nice coat on them. We're actually going to take this little bowl and place it on top here, but first I want to make the cactus, place the cactus and the vase filler inside. Now when you pull out the cactus, I don't know if all of them are like this, but they have the sand and the styrofoam really glued on there, so you kind of have to mess with it to really get it out. I started pulling it from the top, but it started tearing the cactus, so tried to figure out another way to get it out. I basically broke off all the styrofoam on the bottom and detached it from the sand, because that seemed to be what was holding the cactus on there so tightly. And you can keep the sand on there. I just had to remove it and make the cactus I was using was a little too tall for the vase, so I had to cut it and make sure it was able to fit in there with the lid on top. So we removed the styrofoam. Now I'm just trying to pick up all the little pieces without making a huge mess. Okay, so I was able to break off the sand part. It came off in one piece. So, and then I went to get off this last little pick on the bottom because it's still too tall. So I grabbed some scissors and cut around the base of the cactus. And it is styrofoam, so it's easy to cut through, but it is a little spongy. I was having trouble figuring out where the pick ended or what it was to get it out, and it turns out it was like a toothpick. So once I loosened it up pretty good, it came out pretty easy. I just didn't want to pull it too hard and break the cactus. So there's that piece. Alright, so now it should be flat enough that I can fit it in there pretty good, and it is. Now we're just going to add some hot glue to the bottom of the cactus and place it in the desired spot of my vase. I'm going to put it a little bit towards the back so I have room for my little gnomes I plan on putting in there. I'm basically using the cactus as a background. Here we go. Alright, now we're going to get... I actually bought this at the Dollar Tree too. It is a pompadoodle yarn, and basically it's just a bunch of little pom-poms on a thread, but I wanted to cut these off and basically use it as like smaller, I don't know, like smaller, not smaller cactuses or succulents, but like that, just to add a little more greenery. to the rocks and stuff in the foreground of my vase. Now, what I should have done was thrown some hot glue on the bottom and then added the rocks. The thing with glass is hot glue tends to dry pretty quickly because it's cold. So I just threw some rocks in there to fill it up as much as I could and then cover that bottom piece where the cactus was cut. Now I'm taking some of these little palms. I wasn't going to detach them at first, but I didn't like the string that was between them, and I didn't know how to hide that very well on the side. Put it first and weaved it through the rocks, but I didn't want to do that because it's such a small space to work with. So I just cut off the little pom-poms, added a little bit of glue to keep them kind of in place, and then just set them down on top of the rocks. Now, if you're going to be moving this a lot, I definitely recommend gluing down the rocks on the bottom. I don't plan on having mine moved very often, and the lid is going to be removable, so if you need to rearrange it, you can. Alright, now we're ready to glue our bowl onto the bottom of the terracotta planter. You want to turn it upside down and put a generous amount of glue on the bottom towards the middle, or not the middle, but on and off the rim is what I kind of did. And that way the glass will be adhered well when the glue dries and it won't fall off. Now you want to just kind of eyeball it and make sure you put it in the middle as much as possible. Alright, so there we have it. They're connected. Now I decided to go ahead and put on one of these little fairy garden gnomes that I bought at the Dollar Tree. I think I'm going to put the last two I have. They weren't able to stand on their own because the rocks were almost bigger than they were for their base and they're not even. So I added a little bit of hot glue to the bottom of their feet, and then when I went to put it in, it just attached to the one rock, of course, because I didn't glue my rocks down. So basically I just glued it onto the rock, pulled it out with the rock it got attached to, added some more glue to the rocks, and then basically kept doing this until it was glued in there enough to be stabilized because it was glued enough to the bottom filler. Now, a better option would have been for me to, like I said, glue the rocks on the bottom and then glue the gnomes on top of that, but this was my first time making this, so I'm just giving you guys tips as I was learning. Alright, so this is definitely something I should have done before I glued the vase on top, but I ended up deciding to put the twine around the bottom rim of my terracotta planter. So basically just take a little bit of glue, start it at the bottom in the back, and basically we're going to wind it up all around the edge of this rim here, and just to give it a sort of rustic farmhouse feel to it. Okay, so that took a little longer than I wanted it to, but I fast forward it for you guys so you can see where I am cutting it off at the end and the back, and that's where we're going to end it, just at the, you just want to do the rim of the bottom there. So obviously if you use a thicker twine, it's not going to take so long and be as tedious, but I had already bought this small jute twine from Dollar Tree, and I was determined on making it work. And I think it looks cute. It was worth the effort. Okay, so now we're going to take 3 strings or 3 pieces of twine and cut them all equal lengths, and we're going to make a small bow to put in replacement of where the little turn knobby thing is on your gumball machine. Okay, so we got our 3 equal threads here, and we're just going to hold them all together, make 2 little bunny ears, tie them together, and make a cute little bow. You want to kind of straighten it out so it comes out pretty even, pretty symmetrical. And actually, guys, you're going to see the camera change angles here because I did, if you can notice in that corner there, my little 2-year-old was saying she wanted to go to bed. So I had to change the angle, or I came back and changed the angle when I came to sit back down and finish this video. So I grabbed my bow and I ended up trimming off the edges a little bit and cutting the tails of the bow at a little bit of an angle. I'm just gonna even out the little hoops there. There we go, cute. Alright, now we're just gonna figure out where to put this. I'm gonna take this lid off because it's easier to see inside the bowl when you're when it's off. It's blocking light for me. So anyway, I'm gonna move it about right there. We're just gonna glue that in place. Okay, so once I put the lid on, I felt like it needed a little something on top, and I ended up getting a marble to wrap some of this jute twine around, and we're just going to make a small knob to put right on top. Okay, so I'm almost finished wrapping this twine around the ball. It was a little difficult because the marble is pretty little, but there was no method to it. I just kind of kept wrapping in different directions all around the ball, gluing in various spots until I was satisfied with the outcome, and basically you couldn't see any marble showing through. Alright, so we're just going to stick some glue on the bottom of this little ball and stick it right on top of our terrarium. Be kind of generous with the glue. Just put it right on top. And that is it. I think the little knob on top really evened everything out because we have some twine on the bottom, middle, and top now. And there we go. It's a farmhouse style gumball machine terrarium with little gnomes inside. Now let's move on to the next DIY. For this next project, you will need one of these plastic gumball machines you can find in the toy section at Dollar Tree. Okay, for this next terrarium, this one is actually really easy and was not as time consuming. So at this point, I have the gumball machine taken apart. It's really easy to take apart, everything just twists off. But at this point, if you want to paint it a certain color, this is when you want to do so. Now, you need to clog the part that actually works for a gumball machine, because in the Dollar Tree gumball machines, they actually work to, store gumballs. But we don't want our rocks and filler falling through there. So you basically set it to where it catches another gumball machine, because that has the least amount of gaps in the machine. So we want to go ahead and I'm going to glue some rocks in there just to block that area. Now basically what I did is I just put a couple rocks, glued it, and then added glue to cover the gaps between the rocks. So that way you just make it more secure. Don't be stingy with the glue there, it's not going to show. Okay, so now I'm just kind of making sure that the stem isn't too long, and we're going to add some glue to the bottom of our succulent. I'm using a succulent for this one, and we're just going to glue it down into, it kind of goes lower into the machine, like where it catches the gumball to dispense a new one. And we're just going to hold that there and secure it with lots of glue. Okay, so now that I have the succulent in place, I'm going to glue a few rocks down around it just to secure everything, and that way I don't have so much to put in there after I put the gumball dome around the succulent itself. Okay, so now we're ready to put the dome in. You kind of have to wiggle the succulent in there because it is a little wide, but it is flexible, and then just secure the holder on to the gumball machine again. I'm trying to make sure that the line, there's like little lines at a halfway point on the gumball machine. I'm trying to make sure those are on the side. To put the gnome in there, I did have to use a pair of tweezers and kind of see where to put him. This part is can be a little difficult because the hole on top is so small, but oh, and I just shot hot glue at myself. Okay, let's try this again. Make sure we got a good grip on this fella. There we go. Pink. Okay. Hot glue. And I'm gonna place him in there very gently this time. And I like him right there. Alright, so now we can add the rest of our filler. Clean up all our little hot glue strings. This one, you gotta kind of keep the dome pretty clean. Now we're just gonna put all our filler to fill in the gap between the succulent and the bottom. You can also use those little pom-poms that you get at the Dollar Tree if you want to make it look kind of like gumballs. and just throw your rocks in there, kind of wiggle it around so they don't stay stuck to the top of the succulent or inside of it. And yeah, it's pretty easy. Alright, there we go. Throw the top on there, and that's it. We're done. See, I told you this one would be easy. Okay, for this next project, you're going to need one of these cactus-stemmed margarita glasses. You will also need a 4-pack of the floral foam. And you will also need some of these succulent picks of your choosing. I am going to be using almost all of these. So the first thing we want to do is take this sticker off the bottom of our glass. And you can, it's kind of difficult to peel off, so I'm going to end up wetting it with some warm water and some soap and just cleaning it off that way. Okay, next we're going to take one of these blocks of floral foam, and it doesn't quite fit in there like that, so we are going to cut off a little bit of one end. And beware, this is messy with this foam. Okay, and then actually I went and got a knife, and we're gonna actually split it long ways as well. Otherwise it just gives a little bit too much height to the glass, and we don't want, you know, everything spilling out of it. So I'm gonna set that aside. Make it even as much as possible. Okay, now we're just going to add a little bit of hot glue to the corners, because it's really the only spot where the foam is touching the glass, and it's just to give it a little bit of stability. Alright, so for this one I'm going to use these marbles that I had on hand. Dollar Tree does sell marbles or marble-like vase filler as well, so you can use those. I just wanted to add a little bit of a mixture for this filler, so that way it wasn't all rocks on this one. Alright, now I'm going to put some rocks, but I'm not going to use the big rocks I was using in the previous DIYs. I'm going to grab some smaller rocks, that way they fall between the marbles. And it being a margarita glass, these kind of look like the big margarita salt. So I thought that went with the little theme we have going on here. So I'm just going to pour those in and kind of scoop them off to the side so they fall between the marbles. And I also wanted these little rocks to be able to kind of cover the corners where the foam is touching the glass. Alright, now that we have all the rocks in there, we're just going to take our succulent picks and arrange them nicely in the glass. Just stick them directly into the foam. I did have to cut some of them because they were a little too tall. These ones I was going to separate, but I thought they actually looked better as a bunch. So I ended up, well, I started cutting, but I ended up clipping it actually further down so they would stay together. Alright, and there we go. Our last DIY is all done. I think it turned out cute. It's super easy. And we're gonna add a little bit more rocks just between the succulents so we don't see any of that floral foam on the bottom there. And just to add, you know, enough filler in there so it looks nice and neat. Alright you guys, let's take one final look at all our projects. This is my original one that I made last year with the little gumball machine. The second one with the little gnome inside. I really like the way they turned out. And then this one is the put together gumball machine looking terrarium with the terracotta pot on the bottom. I think that one's my favorite. And here's the margarita glass with the cactus stem with all the succulent picks inside of it. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, please be sure to subscribe and hit that little notification bell so you can get notified every time I upload. Thanks guys, bye!